this story actually begin? And I am going to start this story about 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
I had three CrossFit gyms, thought CrossFit was at its peak, and sold all three of my gyms. And I went back to doing corporate marketing work that I was in marketing and sales. And as part of that, earlier on in my life, I'd been raised LDS and had left the LDS church. And then there was something else I was going to throw in with that. Basically, I'd become agnostic. And after I'd left CrossFit, was doing corporate work, I was successful, but not at the level that I thought I should be. I thought my success should be here, and it was down here. Like just looking at like my talent set, here's my skill set, here's what I'm capable of, and the results don't seem to be matching up with what I think I should be doing in life.
Okay.
And trying to figure out like, hey, what's the problem here? And like everybody, if you look at the problem long enough, you realize it's you. I'm the problem. And the conclusion I came to was I had an enormous anger rage problem. And it wasn't like I just walked around angry all the time, but it would pop off randomly. And when it would, it's not like, oh, I'm going to yell at somebody in traffic. No, I'm going to come up with a plan on how to ruin your life. Over the next 10 years, I'm just going to be dedicated to ruining you. And it turns out other people don't think that way, which was also surprising to me. And I realized that earlier on in my career, I had done athletics, had been a quasi-pro athlete, and had just trained extensively physically from the time I was 14 until I was 42. And that once I stopped working out that hard every day, that's what I was using to manage my anger. And it wasn't being managed anymore. And I tried a lot of other things to do it, meditation, long walks in the park, warm baths with candles, talking, and none of that really seemed to make a dent. And was basically looking for, hey, how can I not be angry? Like this, I have to do something about this because this is going to become a major issue at some point. It hadn't at that point, but I could very well go to jail if I don't get this under control. And through a wild series of events that were, in one sense, completely random. I had a friend who ended up at a resort that he shouldn't have been at, talking to people that he shouldn't have been with. And he said, hey, we're doing a ceremony next month for warriors, and you're going to come. He's like, well, it was in Cabo San Lucas. And he's like, as it turns out, I'm down here on a private plane this week, and I don't have a private plane next month, and I'm not coming back. And he's like, here's my card. See you next month. And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not coming back. And he's like, very well. See you next month. When he flew home, I picked him up from the airport. I'm asking him about his trip, everything that goes on. He tells me about the weird guy he talks to that says, hey, you're coming to the ceremonies for warriors. And I slap the dash of my car and I go, that's it, we're going. He's like, we're going? I'm like, that's the thing. We're doing that thing. And he's like, oh, you know what this is? I'm like, absolutely. We're going. Let's do this. I've been looking for this. And he's like, oh, drop him off at home. I had no idea what I was talking about. I had to go home and Google what the ceremony was, which was an ayahuasca ceremony. What's this ayahuasca ceremony? What do we have to do? We got prepped and we drove to Cabo San Lucas because we thought it'd be fun, which was a complete lie. We definitely should have flown. When you're in Mexico and they say that a road is under construction, it doesn't mean the same thing that under construction means in America. Like a road under construction in Mexico is like a house that's under construction in America. Like that road's not built. Did a good 30 miles of off-roading
Wow.
to get down there.
In a car or truck or?
It was in a minivan.
Okay.
We ended up calling it the ayahuasca assault vehicle. That we go to Mexico, get to the ceremony, and the shaman's like, we're not going to have it. And my friend who realizes what kind of condition I'm in is like, why, excuse me, pardon me, why are we not having this? He's like, there's not enough people. I said, okay, so is this just a money thing or is this an energy thing? And he's like, oh, it's just a money thing. And he's like, oh, I've got money, man, because trust me, you do not want to go over there and tell that guy that we just came all the way down here for nothing. Like this isn't going to go well for any of us. So I will gladly pay you to not have that conversation. And then we did. Now, mind you, again, I have no idea what we're doing. There's no preparation. There's not much on the internet. I knew we needed to diet, so I dieted. I fasted for 4 days. That was the diet that I did. And I knew we needed to set intentions. And luck of the draw, I set three fairly good intentions, just just randomly got that right. We go through the ceremony.
And just wait, how many hours had it taken you to drive there?
We stopped overnight. So I'm going to guess it was 28, 30 hours of driving.
You had not eaten for 4 days.
I had not eaten for 4 days.
What are you physically feeling at that point? Aren't you growling stomach, or is fasting at that point you're just like, I'm on death's bed? I'm like,
At that point of the fasting, usually around after day 3, physical sensation of hunger goes away.
okay.
And I'll say, like, there's a difference between fasting with an intention and somebody's an hour late with my meal.
Okay.
Having done extensive fasting, I can fast. It's not a problem.
Okay.
If I thought I was going to eat an hour ago and you still haven't shown up with my food, that's an entirely different Jake
Okay.
that you're gonna face. That those are good question though.
I wanted to know if you're already like angry before this even. Angry real quick.
I'm not angry, but I've put all my money on black at this point.
Okay.
I've pretty much done everything I can do. Like, this doesn't work. Like, I might just have a problem the rest of my life. And
Okay.
hey, my
Your
life
intention was to not be angry anymore.
my intention was to not be angry. My other intentions was, what is the greatest good that I can do for the world that will provide the greatest good for me?
Okay.
That was, I thought that was a really good intention. Like, I'm trying to show up and do good things in the world, but also I'm not a martyr. Like, hey, daddy needs to get paid.
Okay.
And then I think that one of the other intentions was like, I want to be peaceful and calm. I don't want to have this random anger
Yeah.
showing up. And then the third intention, which I almost never share because I highly discourage it, not set this as an intention. And if you do set this intention, like, hey, that's your fault. I told you not to do it. Don't do it. The results may vary. It's a super bad idea. I set the intention that I wanted to be a divine man. And that had a lot more baggage to it than I had. Basically 3 or 4 years into the journey, I was like, hey, Lord, what I really meant was I just wanted to be rich. And if you ever make a deal with God, there are no takebacks. So those were my 3 intentions going into that ceremony. Ayahuasca is a drink. It's served as a tea. We were doing this in Cabo San Lucas. It is a Mexican ceremony facilitated by Mexicans. It's a beautiful experience. We had one facilitator. There were like 5 of us there out on the beach.
And that was when they said, hey, we don't have enough money to do this.
You don't have enough money to do this. And my friend said, I'll pay. Just let's do this.
Okay.
So they started the ceremony, drank 1 cup of it. It only takes about an hour for onset to take place. The hour, I took a nap. I just went to sleep.
Okay.
And then
no music or anything.
they have a soundtrack that they play, and it starts from the beginning, starts off rather gentle and then builds up. So
it's nighttime.
it's nighttime.
You're on the beach.
You're on the beach. We probably started about midnight because of the
Okay.
logistical, hey, are we having it or are we not having it? We started about it's night.
5 Americans.
2 Americans, 3 Mexicans.
Okay.
And nobody's English was great, and we speak no Spanish.
Right.
We're flying blind. Hey, drink this, lay down, good luck. And we're like, hey, we're here for it. First one I drank, I felt nothing. Just like, all right, I got nothing. And I was like, all right, here's another cup. And he came over to me, he's like, are you feeling anything? I was like, no. He's like, oh, I'll give you another cup. I gave him drank it again, laid down for a while, and just laid there and stared off into space. And then he came by a little later and was like, are you feeling anything? I'm not feeling anything. And he goes, 3rd cup. And I took the 3rd cup and laid there for a while and didn't feel anything. Meanwhile, everybody else is having either the time of their life or they sound like they're getting murdered. One of the girls has been screaming for 2 hours at this point, and it sounds like she's fighting for her life over there. Whatever's going on in her experience, it's not great.
And you're on the beach. How far apart are you guys? Like, when you hear her, obviously, are you feet away? Or are you?
We're in a little circle, so we're probably 10 feet from each other. And my friend has gotten up, left the circle, and he's marching up and down the beach like
He's walking around.
He's like Hacksaw Jim Dugan. He's out there swinging his arms. He's screaming. He's like giving it the old Ric Flair scream, which is what he's famous for now. It's like, woo! And he is, he's going at it. He's having a blast.
Okay.
2 of the other girls, very Mexican, suffering in silence, just very quiet.
Okay.
And I lay there for a while and think, well, this is it. Nothing's going to happen. I have tried the last door in the series of doors that are going to try. And again, nothing.
You think your tolerance was just high, or just?
I had 1,000 thoughts, like haven't been formed LDS. Oh, I wasn't supposed to do this. This is God punishing me. This isn't the path. Nothing's ever going to work for me. This is just, I'm just going to be effed up forever.
Okay.
Like my life is going to be just, I'm just going to be miserable forever. This is
Right,
all
like,
there.
this doesn't.
So that's what I'm thinking. Well, as part of their ceremonies, they do ayahuasca overnight, and in the morning you do 5-MeO DMT. And there is very little information online at that time about ayahuasca, and there's like none about 5-MeO DMT. 5-MeO DMT is the most powerful psychedelic known to man. It generally lasts about 15 minutes. It is a toad venom that you inhale, and it is the absolute guaranteed you are going to experience the ego death. There is no like, maybe I'll experience the ego death, maybe I won't. You're going to die.
So you're talking about an actual toad,
An actual toad.
like frog toad.
Yep.
So,
There is a toad that lives here in the Sonoran Desert where we live here in Phoenix, hibernates about 9 months out of the year. And then for 3 months out of the year during the monsoon season here, when it rains, it comes up out of the ground and it's got 5 glands on it. You squeeze one of those glands, some gelatinous venom comes out. Put that on a Pyrex glass, it dries into a little flake. Take that flake, put it into a glass pipe, smoke that, and then you go on a 15-minute ride that could be 15 minutes or it could be several decades. No, I didn't know any of that at the time.
okay, that was a part of.
Yeah, I had no idea what the experience was. I had no idea what it was like. Like it was like it's a toad venom you smoke that gives you a psychedelic experience. Of story.
Okay.
That is like all I knew. Also, up to this point, I've never done any drugs.
I was just about to ask you that. Yeah.
I've never smoked marijuana. I've drank a fair amount of bourbon. I've smoked cigars, and that is my entire drug use history. There is nothing else that I've taken.
No, and you just went right into the ayahuasca,
Just,
like
just went right into ayahuasca.
the warrior thing. You were just like, I'm taking on that warrior.
Well, it's like I've done all the other things that they've recommended to deal with this, and hey, journaling did jack crap for me. Like this was not helpful by itself. So I'm laying there for another 20 minutes and I go, well, I guess maybe the 5-MeO DMT tomorrow morning will be the thing because ayahuasca hasn't done poop. So grab my pillow, roll over, gonna snuggle up and just go to sleep for the rest of the night. I'm like, well, at least I'll be well rested in the morning for the drive home. And right when I closed my eyes to go to sleep, that's when it kicked in.
Okay.
And started having the experience. And it is difficult to describe, even as an experienced person, that first experience of falling through space and seeing things and having a lot of experiences. One of the very first experiences I had was I opened a door and walked into a white room, and there was a guy sitting behind a desk just as far as you are from me right now, and sat down and talked to him and said, hey, it's good to see you again, because it was God. And I was like, oh, there is a God. And we would talk off and on through the night. Sometimes I would be talking to him just like I'm talking to you now.
Okay.
And then other points I'd be having visions. So I was talking to him and he said, all right, leave the circle, go out in the sand and dig a hole. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, all right. So I go out there and I start scooping out this hole in the sand and, I think I'm going to puke in it. So I did like a 12-inch hole. And it's like, no,
Okay.
bigger. So I dig a hole that's probably like 3 feet around in the sand.
So your eyes are open.
Eyes are open, still seeing stuff.
Okay.
And everything's very different.
Yeah, but you're feeling this urge to just
I've got to dig this hole.
dig a freaking hole. Okay.
Yeah. Dig this hole. And all I'm wearing is shorts. I got like little ranger shorts on, topless.
I don't know what ranger shorts are.
The little no seam. You ever see the
giant
guys? Yeah, you ever see the guys in special forces running where it's like all thigh?
Yeah, okay.
That's what I'm wearing.
Okay, not Magnum PI, but more Coach.
Pretty close to Magnum PI. Maybe a little shorter.
Okay, awesome.
And God says, all right, that's great. Throw yourself in the hole. I was like, hey man, I'm from a long line of furry people. Like I got a lot of fur. There's a lot of hair on my back.
Sand, yeah.
This is sand. That's a good 3 week
Yeah.
I'm gonna need
Scrub.
I'm gonna need one of those little lice combs going through my back. I'm gonna need assistance for this. Like I'm not gonna be able to get this sand out on my own. And he's like, throw yourself in the sand.
And this is still God, the person you're
Mhm.
across the desk from, that's
Yeah,
saying
this
like,
is God the
okay,
Father. And
yeah,
he's like, hey, you need to throw yourself in. I'm like, about that, man. He's like, jump in. No. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. We go back and forth for a while, try to negotiate. Then finally get to the point where I'm like, fine, I'll throw myself in. He's like, don't bother. I was like, oh, perfect, wonderful. Go back to your mat. I'm like, go back.
Luke's testing.
So I go back to my mat and I lay down. And I'm like, all right, well, what are we doing next? And he's like, well, if you can't do something simple like throw yourself into a sand pit, what are you going to do when I give you a real job? Saw me coming on that one, didn't you? So I was like, promise, next thing you tell me to do, I'll do it. And he's like, good. Go home and quit your job. I was like, oh, didn't see that coming. I'm like, so I had sold CrossFit and was working in a legal marketing business and was a partner in that.
Right. Corporate
So,
stuff.
so I'm doing marketing for attorneys.
Okay.
I'm a third. I am a one-third partner in the company.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't think it works like that. I can't just go home and quit. He's like, yep, sure can. Should go home and quit. So like dust off my resume, start applying for jobs. Then when I find one, quit. No, go home and quit. Hey man, I don't think I'm picking up what you're putting down here. Like we gotta negotiate. We gotta figure this out. Did you say you would do it? I'm like, yeah, man, did. But like, what am I gonna do? Is go home and tell people I quit my company and now I'm a homeless bum with no vehicle because I got high for the first time in my life in Mexico? Like this is not a great story. He's like, if I told you to like, and I had the vision of me standing on a cliff and it was dark beneath the cliff. And he's like, if I told you to jump, would you jump? Yeah, jump. So we negotiated for a while. I'm like, Lot did it in the Old Testament. I can do some negotiating here. Let's see what we can do. So I eventually negotiated like one, it would be irresponsible of me to just go home and quit. Like I have actual responsibilities that I'm accountable for here. So I said, give me, I won't look for a job. I won't send out my resume anywhere, but I'll continue to work for 3 weeks so that I can hand everything off in an orderly fashion. And that was the agreement we came to.
All right.
And I would like to not say that I didn't cry about that for 2 hours while we were negotiating it, but I definitely cried a lot because I didn't want to like, hey, I built this thing and it is modestly successful, but again, not as successful as I had hoped or dreamed, or it did not have the path of success or the trajectory that I was looking for. So that was that negotiation. And then in laying there are all these odd positions that I sleep in where I'm just like laying in different, I'll wake up and I can't sleep and I just gotta lay in like some weird position. Intuitively, I just started trying to lay in those different
To
positions.
get comfortable or
To
what?
get comfortable, it just felt like, hey, these positions are happening in your life for a reason.
Okay.
And there was, it wasn't like anybody told me to do it. It was just an intuitive, hey, I should lay in these weird ways that I've laid my
Sure.
whole life when I sleep. And when I would hit one, like I'd move an arm, move it, move it, move it, move it, boop, and then it would be like a puzzle piece had fallen into place. And when I hit that perfect position, I would see a past life. And I would see a life. I would basically see me dying in this past life.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, well, there I am, 15. All right. Died in that one, then changed positions and go, oh, made it to 31 in that life. Very good. And then died again and just saw 10 to 15 lives that I had lived and died in.
Wow.
And the most recent one was, I believe, the 14 or 1600s in China. I was on the Great Wall and made it all the way to 43. I was like, the ripe old age of 43, go off to fight the Mongols and do not come back.
Okay.
That was, as far as I know, that's the last time I've been back. Now, also, I did not believe in reincarnation before that. And even during that experience, I'm still like, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm on psychedelics. Like this
Sure.
is, I don't believe in reincarnation. And I'm still unclear about God. But like even the talk with him is very suspect to me.
Okay.
I'm not just like, oh yeah, it's God. How you doing, man? Even though as soon as I walked in, it was like, hey man, it's great to see you again. Glad you're glad you're here.
Yeah.
One of the visions I had was I was on a gold cruise ship. And as part of this gold cruise ship, it was all inclusive. You could have anything you wanted. All you had to do was ask for it. And I am running around the gold cruise ship like a pirate, trying to steal everything. And there's one scene where I'm in the galley and everybody's eating and I'm swinging from the chandelier trying to like steal food. And there's
Mhm.
like an old black woman going, security, security. He's doing it again. Security comes and gets me and takes me to the head. And the captain's up there. He's like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you doing this? Like, if you want your own boat, you can just ask for your own boat and we'll give it to you. And you can take over and run the boat like you want. Like, just ask for what you want. And that's all you have to do. And I was like, oh,
Are you aware of what's happening around you? You're still on a beach, obviously, with other people,
I,
and there's,
when I'm having those visions, I'm not.
okay,
I'm not even aware I have
your
a
eyes are
body.
closed.
Eyes are
There's no
closed,
outside.
completely. Yeah, nothing, completely still. I'm not aware of the music. I'm not aware of the women screaming anymore. I'm not aware of my friend
Okay,
marching up down the beast. I am in a completely different world. Every once in a while, I'll come back and be like, sit up and look around and go, that was weird.
okay,
And then,
but you can go right back into the vision.
yeah, as soon as I would open my eyes, I felt completely sober.
Okay.
And at one point, I got a message like, hey, go take this dating app off your phone. And I was like, all right, I'll take it off my phone. It's like,
Right now?
now, right? I have to power my phone on, turn the app off, like delete the app and go, we good? Yeah, all right, go back to my mat. Go back to my mat, lay down.
And you had only drank a little bit of this tea so far, or did
I've
you?
drank 3 cups.
Okay,
So 3 cups in before it kicks in,
okay,
which is usually a little more than most people need.
okay,
Most people have 1 cup and they're cruising. They're doing
okay.
good. At a certain point, I get up, walk over to the facilitator, and I go, can I have more?" And he's like, "Did the medicine tell you to ask for more?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Give me here's more. Via con Dios." Gives me another glass. And ayahuasca, the first time you drink it, it's a combination of a leaf and a vine that they brewed together,
Okay,
create a tea. It's rather viscous. The first drink, it tasted like Chipotle with wheatgrass in it,
okay,
which was not too bad. The second cup, it got a little more bitter. The
okay.
third cup, you're like, this does not taste good anymore. And the fourth cup, like one eye snapping shut, and you're like, wow, ooh, that's got some kick to it. So I take the fourth cup and I'm back to talking to God again. And we're just all of the embarrassing things that happen in your life that you wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I called that girl in the seventh grade and played the Kiss song, look it up over the phone. Like, what in my ever loving mind is wrong with me? Just every embarrassing social faux pas you've had in your life. Me and God are sitting on the sofa, and he's got his arm around me, and we're rolling that footage. And we're both
Okay.
just laughing our asses off.
Okay.
I'm asking what was up with my ex-wife, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's a comedy." And I'm like, what do you mean that's a comedy? That wasn't a comedy. That was a horrifying 14 years. And he's like, yeah, an empath and a narcissist marrying each other is that's comedy. Like, that's not comedy. That's not funny. He's like, yeah. You ever watch Funniest Home Videos where dad get hits in the nuts with a wiffle ball? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you laugh at that? I'm like, well, over 1,000 years, like your wife keep kicking you in the nuts is funny. I'm like, I understand, but not ready to agree with that. But sure. Hey, it's year 13. He's gonna fall for the same trick again.
And how long have you been divorced?
I have been divorced probably 2 or 3 years at that point. I wasn't surprisingly wasn't angry about that very much. Just like, hey man, that
Didn't work.
yeah, you made a dumb decision. That's your fault. That's largely how I took that. Not saying that I was always delighted with her, but 90%, hey, that's on me. You just made a bad choice.
Yeah.
I had that conversation. And then at a certain point, I said, am I really talking to you? Or is this just me talking to myself? Or is this just like a complete psychedelic vision? Like, are you a thing that's different from me? Are we the same thing? What's going on here?
Okay.
And he got up and walked out of the room.
Away from the table. He just
Away from the table. At that point, we're on the sofa together talking.
okay.
Got up and walked out. And I was like, and for the next 5 minutes, I had an obsessive thought. Just kept thinking the same thing over and over and over again, just having this obsessive, we all do it. We have some little problem in our life and we just keep picking at it. And I did that for like 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then he walked back in and sat down and said, "That's you talking to yourself. This is me talking to you." Like, well played. Didn't see that coming. Guess you got me figured out. And he was giving me a lot of directions like, "Hey, you need to go home and do this. You need to take care of this. You need to like talk to this person about this." And I was like, "Hey man, I gotta go get my journal and write all this down." And he's like, "You'll remember." I was like, "Have you met me? I'm super absent-minded and super forgetful. Like I have no idea what I had for lunch yesterday, even though I fasted all 4 days. Like
Yeah.
I'm not aware of what's going on with me." And he's like, "Yeah, I know who you are. You'll remember." And I was like, "Okay." And then towards the at the very beginning of the ceremony, everybody talks about purging with ayahuasca. We were in this little palapa on the beach that has like a half wall, and I got up to puke and to purge, and I, you know, no food for 4 days. So I start puking over this wall.
This is before or after the whole.
This was after the hole,
Okay.
and after that, but yeah, it was much earlier.
Okay.
I start puking, and I puke for about 20 minutes. And I'm puking hard, like
Getting
hey,
it all out.
getting it all out. Like I may have separated rib at a certain point. You're just like, "Hey man, I'm committed to this purge." After about 20 minutes, open my eyes, look down at the ground, and there's maybe a quarter cup of material
Okay.
on the ground. And I'm like, that is a lot of work for not much work product. That was just a fascinating part of it, which leads me to the end part of it. It's probably the last hour. The sun is getting ready. There is light in the sky, but the sun hasn't broken the horizon yet. And I have to go to the bathroom. Get up, go to the bathroom, have a life-changing poop. Like
Okay.
just you feel like everything from your rib cage down has fallen out of your body.
Okay.
That's how it felt.
Cleanse.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is a full-blown cleanse. And have wet wipes, clean up, go lay back down, lay there for 5 minutes, go back to the bathroom, clean up, lay down for 5 minutes, back to the bathroom. And around the fifth or sixth time this happened, I was like, I'm tired of making the pilgrimage from my mat back to the bathroom. I'm just going to hang out in here. So I sit in the bathroom 15 minutes, nothing happens. Go back to my mat, lay down for 5 minutes, have to get back up and go. Like, apparently, this pilgrimage is part of the process. So we go through all of that, and eventually it wears off, and it's over, and the sun's up. We're all like newborn little puppies, and
Wow.
we talk for a while. We share our experiences. We talk about different things. Chaos had my friend's name. He had a wonderful time just affirming. He saw rainbows and colors and was breathing out smoke rainbows.
Okay.
Just had the time of his life. Meanwhile, I felt like I was just getting beat pillar to post. Like
Okay.
the whole thing was it ended very positive. Like the last hour was super affirming, super positive, super wonderful. But all of the hours before that were very like, hey, this has been really difficult the entire time. And then we go to do time to do the 5-MeO DMT,
Okay.
which again, know nothing about. I'm the first one to go, and the facilitator's like, "All right, well, you know how when you smoke pot?" And I was like, "No." He kind of looks at the other people like, "How'd you get here?" And I'm like, "I'm not sure about that myself."
It's like the gateway is not your gateway, huh?
What else have you done? Nothing. So they're trying to get it translated to me of, hey, you're going to take one long draw,
Okay.
and then you're just going to hold your breath as long as possible. I was like, okay. And they administer 100 milligrams, which is like about the largest dose you can take. You physically can't actually smoke that much, but they just want to make sure they have enough in the pipe that you get enough. So I take one long draw off the pipe, close my eyes, and we do it from a standing position in Mexico, and then try to lay down.
You're standing up.
Yeah, we're standing up as you draw off the pipe. You're standing, and then they have somebody behind you to catch you.
Okay.
I voluntarily just go down and lay down on the mat before I exhale. As I exhale, it feels like I am cartwheeling, rolling down a mountain, like
Okay.
maybe a 70-degree slope where it's not enough that you can just free fall,
Okay.
but you're just going to keep hitting rocks
Like a
all the
dip,
way.
or just like a
Just like a
momentum.
just like a punishing falling down the
Okay.
stairs. Like you're just
Okay.
and then you're like, and then you're airborne for a couple minutes, then get slammed
Okay.
again. So I do that for a while, and it's pretty unpleasant. I'm not happy with it.
Sets in.
Panic sets in. I'm trying to grab the earth because I figure like if I grab something,
It'll ground you a little. Yeah.
well, I think I'm flying down this mountain, so
Sure.
I'm just trying to hold on to the mountain while I'm actually laying flat on a beach, and that does not arrest the spinning of the falling. That part does eventually stop, and then when I stop, I land in the Garden of Gethsemane with Jesus Christ, where he is paying for everybody's sins. And it is the darkest thing that I've ever experienced. I believe it's the darkest thing you could
Visually,
have.
you saw Jesus.
Yeah, visually I saw Jesus. Visually,
Okay.
he was there doing his prayer thing. The other apostles and disciples had left. And there's a couple times during that where in the scriptures it talks about Jesus came out and basically rebuked them or scolded them for leaving him alone to do this.
Yeah.
And after having been there, I was there. It felt like I was there for an eternity. In reality, I was probably there about 3 seconds before I pulled the ripcord and got out of there. But I was also like, yeah, man, I can see why your friends abandoned you. Like this is pretty terrible.
Like a heavy moment, or
It is heavy, it is dark, it is terrible, it is all the oppression, all the evil, all the guilt, all the shame, all the fear, every
all the hatred,
all the
yeah, okay.
hatred, just everything that has happened in the world is being pressed down on you at once.
Wow.
And
And being an empath, you could feel that. You could feel
I
that kind of heaviness, or you just sense.
you sense the heaviness, you feel it. It is so heavy that I don't believe you'd have to be an empath. Like it is a crushing weight of evil. That like in scripture, Christ didn't make the atonement on the cross. He did it in Gethsemane. That's where he paid for everybody's sins. That's where he bled from every pore. And then after again 3 seconds of it, I was like, yeah, I could see why you bleed from every pore from that. It's going to squish the life out of you. 0 of 10, do not recommend. Don't don't go looking for that.
See you at the time, and you were just watching.
I was just
Observer.
watching. I doubt he was going to give me a fist bump or a high
Okay.
five or thanking me for the 3 seconds of
Yeah.
very mild assistance that I gave if I was any way even helpful.
Hmm.
Or if I was just there to go like, hey, this is what it's like. Again, go into this, don't really believe in God. Jesus was probably a person, not really the son of God. Like I just don't believe in the supernatural. And then after that, it is the hallmark experience of something that is transcendent is that's ineffable, meaning there are no words to describe it, and that you have complete unity with everything while being separated. Time becomes dilated. And I had all of those experiences. I can't tell you what happened. I can tell you that it was blissful. It was wonderful. Well, after I left the Garden of Gethsemane.
Time has been dilated. So can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So time dilation is time is plastic, which means it can stretch out or it can shorten. So while my experience may have been 15 minutes in our time,
Mhm.
in the place where I was at, it was a really long time. Like
Okay.
it was years
Okay.
that I had been gone before I came back. And then after the Garden of Gethsemane, I was still having a tough time. I did try and dig a foxhole at one point and like hide in the foxhole
Okay.
and covered myself with sand at that point,
Okay.
like just completely buried myself in the beach. Whereas the night before I was not going to do that.
Okay.
And then at a certain point decided I wasn't scared anymore of being in my foxhole and basically jumped out of the ground like a little groundhog
Okay.
and was like, rah at people, and then dug another hole and hid myself in the hole and covered myself again
Okay.
so I could jump out of the sand again
Nice.
and surprise everybody, which they were not surprised. They're actually going to hide me in the sand. And then just complete bliss, complete joy. It wasn't lost on me the irony of the night before I would not throw myself into the sand till the next day I am willingly and joyfully burying myself in the sand.
Okay.
And I did indeed take 3 weeks to get all the sand off me. Like,
Wow.
there was a point 2 weeks later that taking a shower back home in Phoenix and getting sand out of my ears. Like, the actual ear
Nice.
canal, I'm like, "Oh, there's still sand in there." We did a very thorough job. Yeah. I was screaming a lot while I was doing it. Like, I was not taking this quietly. I beat the earth, tried to dig a hole foxhole, screamed, thrashed, was just having a really not pleasant time of it. But eventually when it was over, it was wonderful, it was beautiful, it was blissful. It was, the greatest experience of my life. The second I could think that I had a conscious thought, I remember looking at the sky and going, 10 years of therapy would not have done this for me. There is no experience in the world that it was probably also the first time in my adult life that I felt completely relaxed.
Okay.
That like every joint felt relaxed, everything in me felt great. And then the girl that went after me was Mexican, little bitty petite thing. She lays there on the ground and like every 20 seconds she would shake a little bit
Okay.
and then be still and relax. She'd shake a little bit, be still, relax. And she was gone like 10 minutes and then came back and dusted her off and she gave everybody a hug and we went over to the little vegetable fruit table to have our after ceremony snack. And I was
Yeah, I
like,
mean, yeah,
yeah.
okay. So
And
that was pleasant, I'm sure.
it was probably the best food I've ever had in
Yeah,
my
yeah.
life. And I said, your experience looked like it was a lot easier than mine. And she said, yeah, I got torn into 1,000 pieces 1,000 times. I was like, oh, or maybe you're just more stoic and a little tougher
Wow.
than I am. So what you see on the outside is always what you get on the inside.
Your friend, you watched him do his
Hmm.
ceremony too, yeah?
Yeah, I watched him do his, and he had a much easier time of it. I think overall he was just a much better person than I was, so he had a much better experience with it.
Intelligent or
Yeah, more emotionally intelligent. I was angry, but I was also mean. So like that meanness wasn't a great trait. Over the next year, every time I would be mean, every time I'd be a jerk unnecessarily, he would look at me and go, "This is why the buffalo's so hard on you." And I go, "You're not wrong, but you are a jerk."
do
Pointed
you
out.
think that the LDS upbringing had anything to do with what your experiences were during either one of those?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. Further on down the line, I did ask God, like, "Is this really what you look like?" It was, and he just laughed. It was like, that, no, you see me as you are.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, so I see a white guy in a white suit because that's,
Yeah.
if you see God as a tree,
Sure.
great, God's a tree to you. I don't have any,
I mean, ways that you can identify with.
yeah,
I mean, otherwise, how it'd be really hard to connect.
right. It's one of those things where people have their vision of God and go, no, this is him. And it's
Right.
like, for sure it's not.
Right.
Yeah. And then we drove home and as we were driving home to my friend, I said, hey, hypothetically, he's like, hypothetically, were we the walking wounded emotionally before this ceremony? He's like, hypothetically? It's like, hypothetically. He's like, maybe. And I was like, hypothetically, now that we've done this, are we emotionally whole? And he started laughing
Oh, did he?
yeah, and pounding the steering wheel, almost drove us off the road, definitely snorted. Yeah, I was like, I thought that was a good question. Apparently not. And then I repeated it I told that story to another guy who I was working with meditation. He's an Indian medicine man. And he immediately started laughing and pounding. Yeah, he laughed and pounded his knee too. And I was like, well, apparently I'm a lot more effed up than I thought. I did. I did. I came home and said, here's my 3 weeks notice. I'm out. And the woman who I was giving it to was also agnostic.
Okay.
And I said, well, God told me to. And she said, well, do you have ID? I was like, as it turns out, God doesn't need a swipe badge to get through the
Yeah,
pearly
yeah.
gates. He doesn't have a card that he scans up to the reader to get you through. He doesn't really need the ID. But they said, hey, that's great. We're going on vacation in 4 weeks for 2 weeks. Super inconvenient time for you to leave. Could you stay for 6 weeks? And I was like, sure, I'll stay for 6 weeks. did not prepare a resume, did not send any job functions out, and just kept that kept that part of the promise, but then stayed for 6 weeks and then dusted off and left.
And then what?
Well, that's a story for another time, isn't it?
Perfect.
Then it got weird.
Then it got weird.
Yeah. Well, that is the origin story for how everything started. And then our next episode, I'll tell the origin story of how that transitioned into breathwork.
Perfect. Can't wait. Good to
Thanks.
see you.
You too. Thanks, Susan. Right at 49 minutes. I thought so.
That was a great story. I
Yeah.
so into the hole. Like there was no reason for the hole. What was the whole part?
I was supposed to throw myself in it.
But you didn't.
Correct.
It just needed you to. Or
Well,
be willing to.
it needed me to be willing to. And I think I got bamboozled
And
into.
you just start showing your arm hair and you're like, dude,
Have you
chair,
have you seen the back hair? It is full and luxurious and thick, and like it's gonna be. I'm gonna be picking sand out of my ass crack.
Your shirt off when we were in ayahuasca. We're not that airy.
I had just shaved my back the day before.
Oh, okay.
With I do it with
smooth cell. Like that just didn't seem any
with clippers. I've tried to wax it before and it just caused the problems. Like it's starting to come in now. Yeah, it's short, but it's there. Yeah, I'm furry as fuck. Yeah.
They used to call me feathers.
Yeah.
I asked my mom to shave it like in 5th grade. She's like, it's just gonna grow back terrible. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, that's totally not true.
Very beautiful. And I finally told her to wax her face.